Hello and welcome to Poleasy, the series that's all about making learning policy debate easy. This is our Introduction to Policy Debate series, which is mostly tailored towards novices or people who are new to policy debate. In this video, we're going to be going over AF basics, so thank you for joining me. And with that being said, the first main question I want to ask, or that we need to answer when it comes to being affirmative, is what does the affirmative do? Well, the affirmative gives four speeches, the 1AC, the 2AC, the 1AR, and the 2AR. They also need to prove the resolution true by proving that an example of it, or the plan, is a desirable departure from the status quo or a good change from the current world. And in order to do that, the affirmative plan needs to present a case with three proofs. A case is just a collection of your main arguments. So you need to prove that there are problems in the world today that will not be solved without action. Their plan is an example of the resolution that solves those problems, and that the benefits of that plan outweigh any potential drawbacks it might have. So how exactly does the affirmative win a policy debate through those three proofs? Well, you win by winning all six stock issues on case. And stock issues are the specific components of a prima facie or correct case. So all in all, the three proofs are just a simplified version of the stock issues. Each proof is made up of two parts, and if there are three proofs, 2 times 3, 6. So you have to win 6 stock issues. And there are two different styles of presenting the stock issues, or presenting a prima facie case, and those are HIPS cases and comparative advantage cases, which we'll get into a little bit later. So the 6 stock issues, you can remember them through the acronym HITSAD or SHITSAD. The first stock issue is SH, or significant harms, and that's problems in the world today. Second is inherency, and that is that the current world can't solve the current problems. Third, topicality, T, the plan is an example of the resolution. Fourth, S, solvency, the plan solves the problems. Fifth, advantages, A, more positive consequences of the plan. And then D, disadvantages, less negative consequences of the plan. So if you can win those 6 things, the affirmative team wins the debate. So in order to illustrate these, we're going to work through an example resolution, which is students should bring Coach Smith, myself, a drink, and the plan or the example of that we'll use is students should bring Coach Smith a Dr. Pepper. So the first part of an affirmative case is the plan, and the plan is an example of the resolution that the affirmative team believes should be implemented. The affirmative team gets to fiat their plan, which means let it be done. So when you fiat a plan, it essentially means that policy debaters agree to pretend as though the judge has the power to pass the affirmative plan by voting AF and fail the affirmative plan by voting neg. And this allows us to debate about what should be done at the government level rather than just arguing about what would or could be done in the real world. So now let's talk about the first stock issue, which is significant harms or just harms. So the affirmative needs to prove that there are serious problems in the world today. So when you present harms as part of your case, you'll present it as a contention, and a contention is just a fancy word for main argument in a debate. So example, contention 1 is harms. Harm 1, Coach Smith feels thirsty. Harm 2, Coach Smith feels tired. Harm 3, Coach Smith feels unloved. So if the affirmative can't prove that the current world has any problems, why would we do anything to change it? And that's why you need to win harms in order to win the debate. Because if everything's fine, we have no reason to change the world. The second stock issue is inherency. And inherency is proving that the current world is unable to fix the serious problems that you talked about in your harms contention. So as an example, contention 2 is inherency. Coach Smith can't afford a soda on a teacher's salary, which is why he's thirsty. Coach Smith is too busy to get more sleep, which is why he's tired. And Coach Smith has yet to receive gifts from students, which is why he feels unloved. So if the affirmative can't prove that the problems are specific to the current world, or that the current world can't fix those problems, why do we need to change the current world? If the current world is able to or already has fixed those problems, why would we vote for the affirmative plan? Which brings us to the third stock issue about the affirmative plan, and that is topicality. So the affirmative needs to prove that their plan is an example of the resolution or topic in order to prove that the plan is topical. So the affirmative does not actually present topicality in their case in the first affirmative constructive, but the negative gets to choose in their first speech whether or not they want to argue that the affirmative plan is not topical. So it's basically assumed that the plan is topical until the negative says that it's not. And the reason why you have to prove that you're part of the resolution is if the plan isn't affirming the resolution, then the judge can't vote for the affirmative team even if the plan is a good idea. Which brings us to the fourth stock issue, which is solvency. So the affirmative must prove that the plan can solve serious problems, the problems that you talked about in your harms and inherency. So example, contention 3 is solvency. Drinking Dr. Pepper will quench Coach Smith's thirst, solving harm 1 of thirst. Drinking Dr. Pepper will give Coach Smith energy, solving harm 2 of being tired. And then bringing Coach Smith a Dr. Pepper will make him feel loved, which solves harm 3 of feeling unloved. And you have to win solvency as the affirmative, because if you can't prove that your plan fixes the problems, why would we vote for it? So this brings me to the first style of presenting an affirmative case, which is a HIPS case, harms, inherency, plan, solvency. So in this style of case, you are going to read a plan along with 3 contentions. So your first contention would be harms, proving that there are big problems in the current world. We went over the examples of being thirsty, tired, or unloved as problems. Then contention 2 is inherency. You say that the problems can't be fixed by the current world. So that would be things like I'm too poor to buy a drink, I'm too busy to sleep, or I haven't been given gifts yet. P is for plan. We propose that this specific example of the resolution be implemented. So an example plan would be bringing Coach Smith a Dr. Pepper. And then S is for solvency. Contention 3, our example of the resolution can fix those problems. Dr. Pepper will quench my thirst, give me energy, and make me feel appreciated. So you might be wondering, what about advantages? Because we only covered 4 of the stock issues and we are only using 3 of them, and we just have a complete case. We haven't gone over the last 2 yet. So HIPS cases win the stock issue of advantages by proving that there are benefits of solving those problems in the current world. So even though their case doesn't say advantage as a contention, you win advantages as a stock issue by proving that there are benefits of fixing the problems. Whereas comparative advantage cases, the second style of case, they win the stock issues of inherency, solvency, and harms by combining them together into a couple main arguments, which we'll talk about on the next slide. So the fifth stock issue is advantages. The affirmative needs to prove that their plan creates significant benefits for society, and an advantage has 3 parts which correspond to the earlier stock issues. So the first part of an advantage is uniqueness. You say the current world can't fix a problem, which is like inherency. Second is the link. You say that the plan would change the world for the better, which is like solvency. And then third is the impact. You say that that change solves a serious problem, which is like a harm. So you put them in a different order, but you combine a harm with its inherency and solvency, and then put it into one advantage. And the reason why you need to prove that your plan is advantageous is if it does, like if there's no benefit to voting for it, why would we pass something that has no benefits? So the second style of case is a comparative advantage case. And in a comparative advantage case, you read a plan and then 2 or 3 advantages. And each advantage is like combining the harms, inherency, and solvency into one thing. So I turned the HIPS case about Dr. Pepper into a comparative advantage case just to show you how it was differently organized. So plan, students should bring Mr. Smith a Dr. Pepper. Advantage 1 is hydration. Uniqueness, Mr. Smith lacks money to buy a drink, making him thirsty. Link, the plan has students bring Mr. Smith a Dr. Pepper, which he will drink. Impact, drinking a Dr. Pepper will hydrate Mr. Smith, preventing him from losing his voice. So whereas before, we had all of the issues about being thirsty on 3 different arguments. We had the harm about being thirsty on harms, the reason why we're still thirsty on inherency, and how we were going to fix being thirsty on solvency, and advantage combines all of those things into just one main argument. And then it does that with the other stuff too. Advantage 2 is energy. Uniqueness, Mr. Smith is too busy to get much sleep, making him tired. Link, the plan has students bring Mr. Smith a Dr. Pepper, which has caffeine in it to give energy. Impact, giving Mr. Smith more energy means that he won't fall asleep while driving. Advantage 3 is appreciation. Uniqueness, Mr. Smith does a lot for his students with little to no appreciation shown, decreasing his motivation to coach. Link, the plan has students bring Mr. Smith a Dr. Pepper, which makes him feel appreciated. Impact, feeling appreciated, makes Mr. Smith feel more motivated to coach, improving the team's chances of performing well. So we're talking about all the same arguments that we talked about on a HIPS case, only we're combining them and presenting them in a different way. So in the affirmative case presented in the 1AC, you are going to make 3 claims no matter what type of case you're using. That there are issues specifically being caused by the current world, like inherency or uniqueness. That they have an example of the resolution that can fix those issues, which is like solvency or the link. And that the plan fixes serious problems and or creates significant benefits, which is like solving a harm or creating an impact. The last stock issue is disadvantages. So the affirmative needs to prove that the plan creates more positive consequences than it creates negative consequences. You don't present disadvantages in your first speech. The negative chooses if they want to present a disadvantage, but if they do present a disadvantage, you need to prove it wrong. Because if the affirmative plan does more bad than good, it shouldn't be implemented. With that being said, that's the end of this part 2 of Poleasy. I hope that it was useful for you, and I'll see you in the next video.